dear. Apyatam yatrishtoham tvaya naga janma karma yahashame bhavataschatmitoshinam.
Someone else?
Dharmakadidam akyatam yatrishtoham jayanaga janma karma rahasyam me bhavatash shatpratashanam. Sarvam tadidam akyatam yat prastoham te anganga janma karma rahasyam me bhavataschatma toshanam.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll do the word for word. Sarvam, all. Tat, that. Idam, this. Akyatam, describe. Yat, whatever. Prishta, asked by. Aham, me. Tvaya, by you. Anga, without any sins. Janma, birth. Karma, activities. Rahasyam, mysteries. Me, mine. Bhavataha, your. Cha, and. Atma, self. Toshanam, satisfaction. The translation and the purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. O Vyasadeva, you are free from all sins. Thus I have explained my birth and activities for self-realization as you asked. All this will be conducive for your personal satisfaction also. Please repeat. O Vyasadeva, you are free from all sins. Thus I have explained my birth and activities for self-realization as you asked. All this will be conducive for your personal satisfaction also. Purport. The process of devotional activities from the beginning to the stage of transcendence is all duly explained to satisfy the inquiries of Vyasadeva. Narada has explained how the seeds of devotional service were sown by transcendental association and how they gradually develop by hearing the sages. The result of such hearing is detachment from worldliness, so much so that even a small boy could receive the death news of his mother, who was his only caretaker, as a blessing of God. And at once he took the opportunity to search out the Lord. A sincere urge for having an interview with the Lord was also granted to him, although it is not possible for anyone to see the Lord with mundane eyes. He also explained how by execution of pure transcendental service, one can get rid of the prudent action of accumulated work, and how he transformed his material body into a spiritual one. The spiritual body is alone able to enter into the spiritual realm of the Lord, and no one but a pure devotee is eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. All the mysteries of transcendental realization are duly experienced by Narada Muni himself, and therefore, by hearing such an authority, one can have some idea of the results of devotional life, which are hardly delineated even in the original texts of the Vedas. In the Vedas and Upanishads, there are only indirect hints to all this. Nothing is directly explained here, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam is a mature fruit of the Vedic trees of literatures. Om Ajnana-Timananda Shajananjana Shalakaya Chakshara-Militanjana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My eyes were being opened by the torchlight offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Rupa Goswami and to his older brother Sanatana, to the other Goswamis, including Raghunath Das and Jiva Goswami, Sadvaitam, Sadadudam, Parijana, Sahitam, Krishna Chaitanya Deva. Offer my obeisances unto Advaita Acharya, unto Avaduta Nityananda, and to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Radha, Krishna, Madan Sada, Lalita, Sri Nishikanta, for my respectful obeisances unto Radha and Krishna, and the gopis headed by Lalita and Vishaka. And I offer again and again my respectful obeisances unto all Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, those who are present here in the temple room, those who are present in Zoom, those who are present in sound. By your mercy, you are compassionate to the fallen souls, and you can fulfill the desires of everyone. Offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, Aboychar Bhaktivedanta Bhaktivedanta Swami ISKCON Samstapit Acharya, founder Acharya International Society for Krishna Consciousness, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter as well as feet in this world. My obeisance is unto you, O servant of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, kindly spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout the Western world, which is filled with Buddhism and impersonalism. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya and unto Lord Nityananda, Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas, and all those in the line of Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sarvam. O Vyasadeva, you are free from all sins. Thus, I have explained my birth and activities for self-realization as you asked. All this will be conducive for your personal satisfaction also. So, the reason I'm going to, first of all, explain why I'm in class this morning. I think it's so important to have a live class. Not to undermine Srila Prabhupada in any way, not at all. It's just, I noticed that when Srila Prabhupada is giving classes, the devotees just don't stay in the temple. And if we have a live class, then there's more of a tendency for devotees to stay in class. That's one reason. Also, some devotees were requesting, instead of listening to Prabhupada, that we can give a live class. And of course, no one can present Krishna consciousness like Srila Prabhupada. But at the same time, we're reading Srila Prabhupada's translations of Bhagavatam, we're reading his purports, and we're trying to, as best as possible, speak a little bit more on the purport and the verse according to our limited realization and understanding from what we have heard from the teachings of Srila Prabhupada through his various books, such as Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, his conversations, even in his own pastimes. So it's all about Srila Prabhupada, and I don't want to diminish this in any way. So, for that reason also, this morning I seem to we're very limited with Nitai Rama way. This morning there were hardly very few devotees here. And Nitai Priya offered Guru Puja, who we chanted in class with us, who chanted so beautifully the Jai Hanuman prayers in Shriya. Sang the prayers very nicely while we were trying to set up. So here we are. Again, I'll read the translation. O Vyasadeva, you are free from all sins. Thus I have explained my birth and activities for self-realization as you asked. All this will be conducive for your personal satisfaction also. So we're coming to the conclusion of this chapter, the conversation between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva was inquiring from Narada Muni how he became qualified, more or less, and asked him, how did you become so Krishna conscious? Or what makes you qualified to previously when basic travel was just by foot or by ox cart and boat. So they would just stay in one place, and they just happened to be staying in this one place. Of course, this is closer to Vrindavan, but the principle is the same, just staying in one place during the 4 months of the rainy season. During these 4 months, there's a practice, it's called Chaturmas, and you execute these extra austerities. It's a good time to perform extra austerities. So each month there's an abstinence from certain things. For instance, in the first month, which is usually around June, we don't take any leafy vegetables, or at least we don't take Popeye's food, spinach. And then the next month we don't take milk, we don't take, and the last month we don't take black moon dal, like this. So there's certain little extra austerities. But if one really wants to observe the Chaturmas for 4 months, the details of the amount of austerity is there. For instance, you should only cook enough just once a day, and then when you eat, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, we were hearing yesterday, which was his disappearance day, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, he was observing at least one time, if not on a regular basis, the Chaturmas. And he would only cook once a day, and then he would eat, not with his hands, but he would bend over and eat from like kneeling down on the ground and eating. This is one of the austerities. Usually you let your beard grow, you minimize bodily functions, and you focus more on spending time chanting the holy names. Less bodily maintenance and more focus on chanting the holy names. 1970, Srila Prabhupada, I think it was 1970, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they went with him to Vrindavan for the month of Kartik, which is the last month of Chaturmas, and said to be the most potent, because so many activities take place in the month of Kartik. And therefore, the Prabhupada said, okay, how do you observe Chaturmas? He said, chant Hare Krishna 24 hours, no eating, no sleeping. And in one sense, he was actually serious, but in another sense, it wasn't very practical. But the point is to increase your hearing and your chanting. And therefore, during the 4 months, the sages that were in the Vrindavan area were being served by Narada Muni's mother, and Narada Muni, being fatherless, only had a mother, was serving the sages, and by that association, he came in contact with Krishna consciousness. You come in contact according to your association, that's what you embrace. And he was very fortunate that he was associating with these saintly persons. And then by serving them, he was getting their blessings, their mercy. Chatur Didi, one should approach a bona fide spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service to him. Such a self-realized soul can impart the truth to you because he has seen the truth, can impart knowledge to you because he's seen the truth. So there's an exchange that has to take place between someone who's disseminating Krishna consciousness, someone who's qualified to disseminate Krishna consciousness, and a person who's going to be receptive in order for that exchange to take place, the exchange of knowledge. And so it is a humble state and a mood of service. So this is exactly what Narada Muni did with these sages. He approached them in a humble state, serving them. To serve someone is actually an indication of humility. The ego always wants to be served. But when one serves others, and preferably without any expectation, then that takes real humility. because we see in the world there's a whole service industry. You go to a restaurant, you go to a hotel, you go ride on a bus. All these persons are servants of the public, you say, or of the clients, customers, whatever term you want to use. But usually service is motivated by getting some payment, otherwise you can't do it. So when it comes to really demonstrating a humble approach, is serving without any expectation in return. And the more that service without expectation is there, the more favor is given to you by the person you're serving. So if you're serving a very exalted person, a very advanced spiritual person, without any expectation or return other than just the sake of serving because you have so much affection for them or whatever, then they bless you with knowledge. This is how the transcendental exchange takes place. And this is precisely what Narada Muni did. Now, Vyasadeva, he's inquiring from Narada Muni in the same mood. It's not like he's challenging, but he's actually inquiring from Narada Muni in the same mood. And therefore, Narada Muni in this verse, he says, you're free from all sins because I've explained my birth and activities for self-realization as you inquired. And this will be conducive for your personal satisfaction also. That's another key point. It's like we are looking for satisfaction. How do we become satisfied? We become satisfied when, as a spiritual being, understanding our spiritual situation and acting in that regard. And the bottom line of being spiritual is Jivara Swarupaya Krishnara Nityadas. We're all servants of Krishna. So if we learn how to serve Krishna with the right attitude and the right direction from where we get, how do we know what is the right direction? The right direction is coming from our spiritual master, from the scriptures, and from the sadhus, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. In the purport, just if I could quickly pick it up. He also explained, Srila Prabhupada is speaking here, Narada. He also explained how, by execution of pure transcendental service, one can get rid of the fruit of action of accumulated work, and how he transformed his material body into a spiritual one. So, this term, accumulated work, fruit of action of accumulated work. When we're engaged in material activities, we're accumulating material results. And therefore, those material results keep us on the treadmill, you could say the treadmill of material existence. Keep going and keep going, because one activity ignites another activity and another activity. But we cannot stop activity, because that's the constitution of the soul. We are eternally active. That's the nature of the soul. Wherever there's the spirit soul, there's always action, there's always animation. Wherever you see a living entity, there's animation. Wherever you see a dead body, there's no animation, because the soul is always active. So if we're active in material activities, then it'll keep us perpetually engaging in material activities. But if by good fortune we come in contact with a bona fide representative, Krishna conscious representative, then we can transform our material activities and learn how to engage in spiritual activities, which is often, interesting enough, which can often be the same activity, but it's just a shift in consciousness. In other words, instead of working for our own self-interest, we're working for Krishna's self-interest, and the self-interest of Krishna's devotees. something we have, but the spiritual body is who we are. But being covered over, we identify with that which is not Maya. So therefore, by the engagement of devotional activities for pleasing Krishna, we're engaged in our constitution, our actual constitutional spiritual identity. And as such, we eventually shed the material activities to develop the spiritual body. Now, Srila Prabhupada would do everything, both material and spiritual, everything is coming from Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhu mata sarva vartate, Bhagavad Gita 10:8. Both material and spiritual worlds emanate from me, Krishna says. And both energies are divine. Material energy, it's Krishna's energy, so therefore it's divine. It's not something that is repugnant, but it's actually Krishna's energy, so it's divine. But it's Krishna's inferior energy, and it's Krishna's covering energy, but it's still Krishna's energy. Daidehi, divine. Daidehi Esha Gunamai. This divine energy of mine, consisting of material nature, three modes, is very difficult to overcome. But one who engages in Krishna conscious devotional service, then one can easily cross beyond it. And so being spiritual being caught up in the material world, if we transform our activities from material activities to spiritual activities, then gradually we develop our spiritual body. Now, anything that is seemingly material but is used in Krishna's service becomes spiritual. And Srila Prabhupada would use the example of the microphone. We're using a microphone just to announce or engage in material activities. It's a material instrument, but that same instrument, which seems to be made of material elements, if it's used in Krishna's service, 7%, it actually becomes spiritual. All the paraphernalia that is used to worship the deities is only used for worshiping the deities. So each one of those pieces of paraphernalia is actually spiritual. In fact, it's said to be an expansion of Balaram. So all the paraphernalia, the trays that we use, the towels that we use, the list goes on and on, the conch shells that we blow for doing arati, the items that we use for doing arati, they appear to be material items, but they're actually spiritual. They're actually expansions of Balaram. Therefore, when we dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, then the idea is that those things have become worshipable. Not only the deities worshipable, but the paraphernalia is also worshipable. And therefore sometimes when we receive the paraphernalia from the deities, the piece of cloth or something, it's an actual worshipable object because it's a spiritual object. Even the bona fide spiritual master is actually spiritual. Even though he may appear in a material body, he's actually spiritual because his body, his mind, and his words, if it's all used 100% in the service of the Lord, then that body becomes spiritual. And therefore, one who is in the renounced order, in other words, renounced order doesn't mean just taking on a dress, but it actually means engaging 7% in Krishna's service. That person's body becomes spiritual. And therefore, we don't burn the body of a sannyasi, or to speak of a spiritual master, but rather we put them in what's called samadhi. Yeah, because the body is used, the mind is used, the words are used in Krishna's service. However, it's not just dress. Krishna actually describes in the Bhagavad Gita what a genuine sannyasi is. Astikya karma palam, karma karoti cha. Sannyasi yogi cha, nanir akanir achakya. One who engages in his prescribed duty, and one's ultimate prescribed duty is to engage in the Lord's service and is detached from any of the results, then that person is the true sannyasi and the real yogi. Not one that lights no fires or performs no service. Sometimes you have false renunciants. They go around naked. They only eat raw food and claiming to be renounced. But that's not real renunciation. The monkeys also go around naked and they don't eat cooked food. So that's not what real renunciation. Real renunciation is, as a spirit soul who is active, engaging actively in your duty for pleasing Krishna and being detached from the results. Being detached from the results and doing it for pleasing Krishna, this is the beginning of the steps of pure devotional service. Anya vilasita sunyam jnana karma anamitam anukalena krishnano shilanam bhaktavuti. Pure devotional service, pure devotee service, is service that's rendered favorably for Krishna, not speculating, thinking, oh, if I do this, Krishna will like it, but favorably for Krishna, without speculation and without any sense of return or any sense of gain. That is considered pure devotional service. And personal gain, personal gain is gross and subtle. The karmi may come to the temple, worship the Lord for some gross material gain. My Lord, I'll do this for you. You give me this. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all drive Porsches. I must make amends. Approaching the Lord for asking for something. At least you recognize that there is a God, so that's a good step, but it's not pure devotional service by any means. So it's free from karma. I think I do this for the Lord. I think I'll do that for the Lord. That's speculation, so that's not pure. Anyone that, I keep making this point, anyone that is speaking anything and is not making reference to Shastra, then it's speculation. So, engaging in devotional service according to the direction of the Lord Himself, according to the direction of the Acharyas, just as Narada Muni is instructing Vyasadeva how he engaged in devotional service. Now you can do the same thing. And what happened when Narada, the Lord, appeared to him directly, which is very, very rare. And the Lord can appear directly to the pure devotee. When Srila Prabhupada said, somebody asked him, so do you see Krishna? And one of his disciples butted in and said, yeah, he sees Krishna within the heart. And Prabhupada said, no, I see Krishna directly. You can see Krishna directly. And in fact, the deity on the altar is Krishna. However, in order to see Krishna properly, Premanjana Charitam Bhakti Vilochana, one actually has to develop the proper vision. And in other words, he has to purify the eyes in order to see correctly. And that purification, how we see something, if our eyes are weak, we need a vaya media glasses. And if our eyes can't see the Lord, then we just see stone. Or we just see the spiritual master as an ordinary person. Or we see a Vaishnava as coming from some background. Oh, he's an Indian Vaishnava, he's a Canadian Vaishnava. This is said to be a mentality that is incorrect. It's a hellish mentality. The proper mentality is, how do you see the Lord? You see the Lord through the vaya meeting of the glasses. And what are the glasses? Through the ear. We hear how the deity is actually Krishna. We hear from the right proper source of the proper way to see the deity. Anything that we know, any knowledge that we have, doesn't matter what it is, any knowledge that we have is because we heard about it, not because we see it. Because if you see something and you don't know what it is, then you don't know what it is. But you hear, oh, there's a chair over there. Have you any knowledge we get is actually coming through the ear. That's the proper way. And if we're hearing from the right source, then we're getting the right knowledge. And getting the right knowledge means we get the right vision. When we have the right vision and the right attitude and activity, then our spiritual body develops. And this is exactly what Narada Muni was informing and telling Vyasadeva. And then it also says, this is another point I wanted to bring up. All the mysteries of transcendental realization are duly experienced by Narada Muni himself. And therefore, by hearing such an authority, one can have some idea of the results of devotional life, which are hardly delineated even in the original texts of the Vedas. In the Vedas and Upanishads, there are only indirect hints to all this. Nothing is directly explained there, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam is a mature fruit of the Vedic trees and literatures. So all the Vedas, they give hints. Even the Vedanta Sutra, it's kind of like, they're aphorisms, they're very short statements and very difficult to understand. They're truth, but very difficult to understand. Therefore, they have to be explained more clearly. And this was probably here, this conversation, if we haven't already, with Narada Muni and Vyasadeva, because Vyasadeva compiled all the Vedic literature. And then he wasn't feeling, in fact, I think we heard about this briefly, he wasn't feeling quite satisfied. And then Narada Muni started to tell him why. Because, yeah, he explained all the Vedas, but you haven't explained the ultimate meaning behind it, or the clear understanding. And therefore, after taking this direction from Narada Muni, who's Vyasadeva's guru, he imparted or compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's considered the ripened fruit of the Vedic tree knowledge. You have the tree is the trunk, you have the different branches, the different Vedas, and then from each of the branches you have the fruit. And the fruit is the essence of the tree, because with the fruit you grow more trees. It's the essence, it's the nourishment, and it's the ripened fruit, not just the ordinary fruit, but the ripened fruit. It's ready. So, and in the Bhagavad Gita, this is the last point I'm going to make. In the Bhagavad Gita, even Krishna warns Arjuna not to get overly attached to the Vedas, the flowery language of the Vedas, because it deals mostly with karma kanda. Karma kanda is the same point that was brought up in the purport. Material activities, you're on the treadmill of material activities, which generate more material activities. They could be good activities, they could be bad activities, and there's results from that. And the Vedas mostly deal with doing good activities to get promoted to a better material situation. Whereas the Srimad Bhagavatam gives up all this kaitava dharma, this cheating dharma, and focuses on the actual ultimate benefit for the eternal spirit of soul, to the point where he can develop his spiritual body just by following in the proper disciplic line coming from Narada to Vyas, Vyas to Madhvacharya, Madhvacharya to Lakshmipati, Lakshmipati to Madhavendra Puri, to Ishvara Puri, to Lord Chaitanya, to the six Goswamis, to Krishnadas Kaviraj, to Narottam Das Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vijayabhushan, Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And this is the way of actually understanding and coming to the ultimate awakening and developing our actual spiritual body. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Comments?
I have one comment. Let me see. It's on.